Hey, I'm Al McGee with YETicket.com, your entertainment ticket.com. I'm here with MovieNight.net. Steven Leibowitz, how you doing today?
I'm great today, Al. How are you?
Good, man. Well, we're going to talk about this new horror film called In a Violent Nature. And I sat there and watched this in the theaters, and I could not believe what I was looking at.
hmm
But let's start off with you. How did you like this film? Or tell us about it.
I grew up, a fan of the 80 horror movies, Al. It's Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and all the other slasher films. And so this is my kind of film. And first of all, I did love this movie. Now, this is a really unique horror movie. It's really different from everything we see. Now, those movies I talked about, they're all the same in this respect. We meet basically all these characters, all the potential victims, and among them the final girl. And then of course, and throughout the movie they encounter the killer who just picks them off one by one. This time, we follow the killer named Johnny. From the moment he sort of gets resurrected, because of, he's sort of like a spirit. Someone takes a locket from his grave, and that lets them rise. And basically, the opening shot's like 2 minutes of just a still shot with just a slight pan until he's like, he just sort of comes out of the grave for the first time. And we're just following him walking around. The camera's like right behind him the whole time. People say this is from his point of view, but I don't really see a point of view. It's just we're just following the killer. We're just walking through the woods. A lot is
Right.
shot in
Yeah.
Ontario, and
Uh-huh.
until he hears like voices where he's people he'll eventually kill. So this is a real. I mean, all these main characters, all the other characters he kills are big secondary characters. This is the killer's journey, and to get that perspective, I'm surprised no one. I mean, I got to give writer director Chris Nash credit. No one thought of this before. I thought it was
Yeah.
really big, and it was
Yeah.
I and so it's and like I said, so it's a really different horror movie. Now, sometimes I thought there might be a little bit too much walking. I mean, it's like a 93-minute movie. If you cut out some of the walking, probably could have cut out 10 minutes of walking. But
Right, right, right.
but I guess he had to get the time up. And as far as the movie, if you're a gorehound, oh my God, the kills!
Oh man.
I have
Uh
never seen some of the kills in here are so unique. I've never seen
uh
before. Now,
and I was eating popcorn and drinking a soda, and I
uh
had to stop eating for a moment
oh,
when some of those killings was happening there on the screen, because I had to look at it and I had to listen to it too, the different sound effects that they had for many of those killings. Now, I'm sure some people might say this might be inspired by Friday the 13th, as you mentioned earlier. Some people might say that, but it's a little bit different than that, in my opinion, just a little bit different than that. And also, like you said, the walking through the forest. But I want to go back to the first scene as the camera is in the forest and you see these traps and you see this one animal that was decomposed that got trapped in the trap, and I couldn't figure it out what kind of animal it was. It had the long teeth and things like that, but that was very scary to me. This film in a violent nature is really very, very eerie. And I will admit it the violence in it is different, somehow different. But again, this film really had me sitting on my edge of my seat, waiting. But that's one of the problems I had with film. I was waiting too much between takes and between killings in this film. And it seems like this was a shorter film, but they made it a longer film. Uh, when they shot this, and then they somehow, when they got to the editing part, then they made it, a little bit longer. And I will admit, the kill sequences, they had a lot of gore in it, and it was very gruesome. And I that's the only thing I like about this film was the killing. But I did enjoy the ending because the ending was so tense for me, because I did not know what was going to happen. I could not figure out what was going to happen, and I love the ending in this film.
no, like I said, it's a lot of uniqueness in this horror film that doesn't follow. I mean, it has some horror tropes in it, but it doesn't. But otherwise, it doesn't follow a lot of. Another thing, I don't know if you realize this, Al. There's no music score in this movie at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something else. Usually, Friday the 13th and Halloween and Jaws have probably the most famous horror movie themes out there. But this one, there's no theme to sort of like build you up to let you know what like a killing is about to happen or something like that. It's all done in silence as far as a score goes. It's just whatever nature sounds are out there is what's accompanying the scene. So that also helps enhance this. I thought, the tension, the rise, the horror level, and the scariness of the movie. And the reason why this movie is so gory, one thing that I always heard all the Friday the 13th movies is in order to get an R rating, they had to cut out a lot of the gore and the kills. Now this movie is coming out not rated. This is why you're not seeing any TV commercials for it, and not a lot of advertising for it. And it's not going to be in a
You know
lot of
what? I
theaters.
didn't know that. I didn't pay attention to that. I did not know it didn't have any commercials, anything like that. Because
Yeah,
I didn't pay attention to that.
right. If you're watching, the NBA or NHL finals right now going on, there's no TV commercials for these movies for this movie. That's because you can't advertise on TV unrated movies. You can't do it. It has to have it has to be rated by the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America, in order to uh, advertise on TV. Now, you can watch, of course, a trailer on YouTube, and YouTube is its own. So many people watch on YouTube, so it is out there. So you can get at least advertised that way, which is a big advantage in movies of the older days. But that's why you can get such a gore level on this movie because it is unrated. And
Yeah.
and like I said, yeah, I mean, this isn't. It's not a. Like I said, I thought, okay, enough of the walking. Sometimes I mean, like the killer, of course, raises. He doesn't have a mask yet. I mean, you see right now he's a mask on. He finds that mask later on while walking around. Like, hey,
Yeah, he
it's
sure
the
did.
smell.
But we
So we
never
see,
really get to see his. Well, I don't want to give a lot away, but we really never really get to see his real face. But I want to go back to something else again, like in the first scene when I think the forest guy was arguing with a hunter, and that was very interesting the way he shot it because you hear the voices, you don't always see the voices, and that was very eerie to me also. And I will admit again, the pacing of this film is very good with this because it's not too fast, it's not too slow, and but you feel the pacing, and then you get the feel for the people who got killed. I mean, you got Chris, he got killed in Coke, but I don't want to go through the whole list. But man, the way he did it and came up upon these people, that was the thrill about this film.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also a little artsy. I mean, there's sometimes we just does these, things are done from a very long, like long take, like not long. I mean, long take, but like a far shot. Like,
Yeah,
it's not the so close up. The things, the action is taking place almost far away. You're watching it from a distance. So he chose a lot of Chris Nash made a lot of different interesting choices. I think that I haven't seen in horror because horror actually is about a lot of close-ups. So like I said, I really it's very hard to get something fresh in the horror genre. It's very difficult,
yeah.
and
Well,
and this
yeah,
man really found a way.
he sure did. Well, I'm going to rate this. I'm going to give it a 3. The reason I'm giving it 3 palm trees out of 4 because it is different. But again, the horror in this, the killings in this, is what really surprised me, and the sound effects of those killings is what really reached to me in this film to listen for and also to feel the gore of this film. I'm giving it
Another
3 palm trees.
And Al, I'm right there with you. 3 swords for me. Yes, the sound design done in post production helped enhance the horror. I said it's got some great kills. It's a different perspective in the horror genre because they're following the killer is the main character, and we're following him all the time. And it's just I don't know. It is. I almost don't want a sequel. I mean, if this is successful, maybe they will give it one. But this is something I think just really stand alone, and almost to give it a sequel almost would like ruin the uniqueness of this one film. So I actually hope, while I hope it's successful, I hope they don't make a sequel because I just like this, just have this one story of this killer and be one and done. Don't just, oh, here he comes again, and we follow him again. It wouldn't. I don't think it would serve a good purpose. So hopefully this is just a one movie It's a great film. I hope horror fans go out and have a great time with it, because if you are a horror fan, this is in a violent nature is your movie.
You know what? I'm gonna have to agree with that. And a lot of times I don't like sequels for films anyway, because the first one was great and then they water it down with a sequel, because what are you going to expect? It's just going to be more killing anyway. Now, they're going to be unique about it. You don't know until you see the film, but it's the same old story. But it worked for many horror films. The sequels, they made money, but were they any good? Not really. I can name some franchises.
Back in the 80s, with those Nightmare on Elm Street, basically they called New Line Cinema the House that Freddy built, because those Nightmare on Elm Street sequels helped build up that studio. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's a good business model, but then I understand, and if this is successful, we might, in a year from now, we might be talking about, Violent Nature 2. But like I said, I hope not. But business is business in the movie business.
That's right. Well, thank you, Mr. MovieNight.net, Steve Leibowitz, for sharing your thoughts on this film.
My pleasure, Al. This was a fun one.
Oh, it sure was, man. And it's great to see you. And thank you very much.
Absolutely.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest.